now have a senior advocate of Nigeria and founding member at the AELEX Legal Practitioners and Arbitrators, Funke Adekoya, joins us now to speak on the Onnoghen trial. Thank you very much for joining us, Mrs. Adekoya. It's been great having you here.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Welcome. Now, let's start off with the removal of Walter Onnoghen by the President, Muhammadu Buhari. It has sparked an outrage across the nation. Now, they've described the removal of the country's top judge as a violation of the Nigerian Constitution. What are your thoughts on this?
My thoughts are the action that has taken place is a symptom of the state of the Nigerian judiciary. I think that we're concentrating on issues, on surface issues. There are more fundamental issues that this action actually leads us to have a look at, and which the legal profession as a whole should look at. I think the problem really is that the judiciary has lost its independence, has lost its credibility, has for a long time danced to the tunes of the politicians. And there's now perhaps some effort either to capture the judiciary by one side or the other. And this is what has resulted in where we are today.
Okay. All right. You talked about lost its independence, judiciary, lost its credibility and danced to the tune of politicians. Let's talk about setting the judiciary straight. Now, with this happening at this point and with the journey that the Nigerian judiciary has been on, do we see a reversal or something healthy happening to the judiciary at some point with any of the changes that you witnessed on the scene?
I'm an optimist. I'm an eternal optimist. And therefore, I think that this is a fantastic opportunity for all of us who are lawyers to take stock of where we as individual lawyers have led the judiciary and our clients, our political clients, and sit back and say, is this what we really want? I think that at the end of the day, the judiciary will be stronger for it. We've had too many instances of judgments coming out from our superior courts that we lawyers have complained are inconsistent with each other, are totally out of line with previously established judicial authorities. And there's a perception from the man on the street that justice is for sale to the highest bidder. I think that this whole imbroglio will, at the end of the day, be the opportunity for us to actually sit back, look at our system, look at the role that lawyers have played in corrupting the system, and have things properly sorted out. Laws are inconsistent, regulations are inconsistent. It's an opportunity for us to look at the laws that regulate the legal system, that regulate the judiciary. Absolutely. And I'll give you just one question. If we have a setup that says to ensure the independence of the judiciary, the disciplinary processes that affect the judiciary will all be staffed by members of the judiciary, so they are self-regulating and are thereby insulated from the executive arm of government and the legislative arm of government. What do you do when either the head of the judicial arm or some other member of the judicial arm is supposed to be investigated and is not?
Now, I want to ask you more about this case from a legal standpoint, and because you mentioned that, you know, the judiciary has played into the hands of politicians. Many have condemned President Muhammadu Buhari for not following the due process and in some cases not obeying the rule of law. Now, is there any provision in the Constitution, the Code of Conduct Bureau Act, or any other rules of court used by the CCT that allows the CCT to use an ex parte order to suspend, remove or punish any public officer who is facing a trial before it without going through the entire trial process as prescribed by the Act? Because I think that's causing a lot of confusion. Is the President in the right position to kind of disregard the due process?
I'm not going to even get into, I think we've actually put the cart before the horse. Everybody's talking about due process, and everybody is talking about administrative decisions and what should happen, and the rule of law. What is the rule of law? The rule of law is that we are all supposed to abide by the things that we have decided will guide our daily lives in the public space. And due process, supposedly, is that things would then take place in the way and manner that they are supposed to do. So if we're talking about due process, let's start from the beginning. Processes were instituted. They were served. The person upon which they were served said, "Give it to my personal assistant. He will accept service." A case then starts in court, and we start on the basis of there's no due process because the defendant was not properly served. That is not due process. And so we keep on, in my view, we are actually trying to kill ringworm. We're not fighting leprosy. We've abandoned leprosy. We need to look at the judicial system and the leprosy within the system. It is when you've cured the leprosy that the issues of due process and the actual administration of justice will be sorted.
So in your opinion, what are these key issues that you describe as a leprosy and infection, as it were? What are these key issues that exist within the judicial system that need to be cleared?
I think, firstly, we need to address the perception of the man on the street. The perception of the man on the street is that justice is for sale to the highest bidder. The perception of the man on the street is that you cannot get justice by going to court. And that in itself is a long-standing process. And that's why we've had radio programs where you have community leaders coming in and listening to complaints from people and calling on the person to come to the radio station and answer to those complaints. It's an alternative dispute resolution system because people have lost confidence in the courts. That is the leprosy. Until we've regained confidence, no matter what happens out of this current imbroglio, there'll be one group that will say whatever decision was the result of political pressure.
Okay.
And there'll be one other group that will say whatever decision was the result of financial pressure.
But let's talk about the reaction of the international community. From the United Kingdom to the United States to the European Union, they have condemned the way that Walter Onnoghen was suspended by President Muhammadu Buhari, saying that the removal does not portend well for the upcoming elections. This is the international community lending their voice to a situation that has happened, which you have described is not in isolation, is about the rot in the system. Now, still, how does that look for us, knowing that elections are coming up and they're reacting this way?
Well, my first view, and I speak from somebody who doesn't have the concept of democracy that the European world have tried to push on us. I agree that democracy is a government of the people, for the people, by the people. However, when you transmit the European concept of democracy into Africa, it has failed in many instances because our traditional systems of leadership, our emirs, our obas, our obis, are not what the Europeans consider to be a democratic system. But those systems worked for us. We respected our traditional rulers. We abided by their decisions. And we had our own ways of removing them when we felt that they no longer conformed with the norms of their appointment. And so to that extent, I am guided by what the European Union and the UK and the US have said, because they're looking at Africa and they're looking at Nigeria from a European prism. So, yes, they've got their own problems. They should deal with Brexit, and they should deal with the border wall, and they should deal with France and
I do
the Yellow
agree
Jackets.
with a lot of the things that you're saying, but we are now under a democracy in Nigeria. We have been on for 20 years now. Now, I want to go into more of the details of the case. Now, the ex parte order obtained was dated for the 23rd of January 2019.
I haven't seen it, so I can't confirm.
Well, okay. Well, I'm privy to that information that it was dated on the 23rd of January. And now I believe, well, many believe that to avoid a situation where it would be said that the order is illegal, because by dating it the 23rd of January, the CCT would likely absolve itself from any accusation of disobeying the order of the Court of Appeal appeal. Was that ex parte ordered and obtained and dated on that date intentionally? I mean, you've just said that you're not aware, but based on what I've just explained, do you think it was done intentionally?
I honestly cannot say. I refuse to. I read a lot of, everything I've read has been social and has been the newspapers. And I really do not want to base a decision based on what I've read in the newspapers. I'm a lawyer. I like to see documents for myself. However, I do think that to the extent to which a decision was given that predates or that is not in consonance with a pre-existing court order, it's liable to be set aside. Okay.
All right, quickly now, before I wrap this up, let's talk about the new acting CJN. Now, he was sworn in the day Onnoghen was inaugurating the election tribunal for the forthcoming general elections. And they're talking about the fact that this man is coming in weeks before the elections, the big elections. So how much do you think this affects the dynamics?
Now, it goes back to my initial position that the judiciary as an institution, to quote someone else, is Swiss cheese. It's full of holes. Under normal circumstances, the fact that a CJN has been suspended or has been removed or died should have no impact at all upon the elections and should have no impact at all upon the governance of the judiciary, because anybody could drop dead. But it is because there's the feeling that pressures are being exerted, there are weak spots within the judicial system, that this has become such a big deal.
All right.
Thank you very much for joining us. It's been great chatting with you. Thank you for clearing most of that up. And it's lovely to have you on.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.